Well, thanks, Jake. More News 12 in a moment, but first, here's a look at what's coming up on Law Call.
Well, thanks. I'm Neil Gordon alongside attorney Vic Hawk. And if you've been in a car accident or if you slip and fall, when might be a good time to settle? We'll talk about that tonight.
That's right. We're going to tell you why you shouldn't settle with an adjuster immediately following an accident.
We're also going to take your calls at 803-442-4551. It's all about injuries after a short break at More News 12.
Saved by Gabrielle Gary in Lafayette, Indiana. She goes to save the ball from going out of bounds when it rattles off the goal and falls in.
This unbelievable shot happened this week as Gary's McCutcheon High School Mavericks scored a victory. She actually went on to score 6 more three-pointers that night for a career high of 24 points. But as you can see, this one was the best one of the night.
I can't even do one.
Seriously, I would
Nothing but net.
try. My basketball career ended long ago.
Well, it is going to be cold tonight. Bundle up, mid-30s, but we're looking at a warm-up later on this week. Also more rain on the way.
Thanks for joining us.
Hi there and welcome. I'm Neil Gordon. Tonight, the answers to your legal questions. Here's what's coming up on our program. First off, in our caller segment, we will discuss all types of personal injury claims. So if you've been hurt and you don't know really what to do, we'd like to invite you to call us right now at 803-442-4551. Now, later in the program, we're going to talk about why it seems to be taking your case a long time to get resolved. First, though, attorney Vic Hawk is here to take a look at one of your email questions. Hello, Vic. We had a tape program last week, so
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year,
Absolutely.
Neil. We hate to do those tape programs, but they were very late at night, and we still give you the opportunity to learn something else about the law that you never really thought about before.
And tonight we learned something. If we, get in trouble at one of our local supermarkets, and Erin has our email question. She was at the grocery store, Vic, and the kids were playing on those electric scooters that the store provided for the shoppers. One of the kids ran over her foot, broke her toe, and she just wants to know if the store might be responsible.
Aaron, the answer to your question is pretty simple. The store may be responsible. It could be held responsible for this reason. A store owner has a duty to make the premises safe. If the store owner has allowed children to use these carts, and they're aware that the children have the carts, and they can obviously see that the carts are not being driven in a safe fashion, then the store could be held responsible. But I tell you, there's a little flip side to it, and that is that you don't know, but the parents of those children, if they're engaging in malicious mischief, let's just say, for example, they're running those carts into people intentionally, the parents themselves can be held responsible for up to about $25,000 in damages. So there's a two-sided coin with regard to the options in that particular situation.
I see your point. When I was a little tyke, I used to zip around on those carts,
Yeah.
and but you got to be careful with accidents.
Absolutely.
And that's
and not only the store, but the parent may be held responsible.
$25,000, a lot of change there. Well, for more information, if you'd like to get involved and send us an email, we invite you to go to a couple of websites. Vic's is vichawklaw.com, or here, WRDW.com on the right-hand side of the screen, a button for you to click on the Law Call link. We hope that you will fire off some questions that we can use on an upcoming program to try and help you and others. Well, we are going to take your questions live. The phone number, once again, 803-442-4551. And the possible injury at the supermarket, I suppose, a preview, a little bit of things to come, because we're talking all about injuries.
Absolutely, Neil. We're going to try to help you to understand why you shouldn't settle with an insurance adjuster immediately following an accident. One of the things that we promote in the community is don't settle, and don't settle for anything less than a trial lawyer in the event that you or your family member is injured. Also, there's another aspect of that little brand. That being, don't settle your automobile accident claim immediately following the accident or any other kind of claim. And I brought on Reed Sanders here to work with us tonight and help y'all understand a little more about why you don't settle a claim quickly after an accident. Reed is a graduate of Mercer Law School, works with us, does a great job. He does a lot of the civil work in the office. And he's a member of the Georgia Trial Lawyers Association and then also a trial lawyer. Reed, can you explain to our viewers why it's important not to settle the claim immediately after an accident, whether it be a slip and fall, products liability, auto accident claim?
Right.
What's going on?
Well, the first thing I'd say is that you don't need to settle it quickly because you have one settlement, and that's big to know. When you're going through treatment for your injuries, the physicians are going to try to treat you conservatively, basically meaning that they're going to try to do something that's not invasive first and see if it works. If that doesn't work, with medication, that may not work, then you may actually have to have a surgery that could cost $10, $20, $30, $100,000. The problem with that is if you settle a case the first week or the first month for $5,000, then when you need that surgery 2 months later that costs $100,000, you don't have any coverage. So the problem becomes that you always have to look forward or look to the future for, is this injury going to follow me the rest of my life, that kind of thing. So, like I said, and there's a lot of times I'll have people come into the office who have settled a case early on and then have more problems and come and say, I didn't understand that we just had the one settlement. I thought that they would pay for these bills, and then if I had more treatment, they would pay for those bills. And
That's not the case.
that's just not the way it works. So you got to be careful that when you're reaching a settlement, that you're completely healthy, or at least as healthy as doctors can get you.
Yeah, and see, and especially with orthopedic type of injuries, whether it be to your knee or to your back, the standard protocol among the doctors is to treat you conservatively to begin with. In other words, they'll give you some pain medicines, muscle relaxers, anti-inflammatories. They'll give you some physical therapy treatment, but they're not going to do the advanced testing to determine if you really have a major injury just because of the cost of it. And so after that 2 to 3 months, if you come back and you're still having those symptoms, then they'll do further investigation. If you've settled your claim within that first 2 to 3 months, when they find out 6 to 8 months later that you have a herniated disc in your back or a torn ligament, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And the bills for back surgery generally are about $70,000 to $150,000 to get that treatment. And if you settled your claim, then you're not going to be holding the person responsible or the corporation responsible that should be paying for it. And if you can't afford it, then the public's going to have to pay for it. So it's very important that you don't settle your claim right away following an accident.
Well, our first caller this evening, Paul from Georgia. Paul with a question about his wife. Hello, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How can we help you?
Yeah, I need to ask you a question right there. I'm getting the feedback here, but
Yeah, turn it down, Paul.
I got to drop it down just a tad bit to help you out. I'm still here.
Okay. What's your question?
What's going on is my wife worked for the state right there, and she was injured, and they didn't give her no paperwork. They never called her in to her job whatsoever, and they sent the pink slips out to the house, and I got a hold of them, and I seen them, I said, that's wrong.
Was she hurt on the job?
No, they never called to the job. No, they did not.
Well, what caused her to be out of work?
Sir?
What caused her to be out of work?
Yeah, she was hurt on the job.
Okay. And if she was hurt on the job and you say while she was still out, I guess under medical treatment, they terminated her, is that right?
Yeah, they terminated her right there, but what happened was nobody offered to take her, from a job, down there, the University Prompt Care out there on 25. She had to drive her own self, and she called me and told me that happened on November 13th, 3 years ago.
Yes. Did she have follow-up care under workers' comp?
She's got an attorney involved right there for boys up in Atlanta.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the attorney's already filed a workers' compensation
Right.
claim, because as a general rule,
They did.
you have 1 year in which to file a claim. So I would meet with that attorney and ask when you're going to have a hearing, because you really need to get one in order to get your wife some help. And I'm sorry that happened to you. It's not unusual they terminate you when you're out of work due to a work-related injury, but they're still responsible for paying you if you're unable to do alternative work or unable to find another job because of your injury.
Well, thanks to Paul for calling, and just a friendly reminder, if you could, try to mute your television when you do call in, and use a landline if possible. Before we go to the break, just a kind of a basic question for the both of you. How do you actually know if you have a personal injury case or a claim against someone or a company?
I'd say anytime you have an injury that you can either relate to someone or to a hazard. And what I mean by a hazard is something on a property that shouldn't have been there, or that a normal person would say, that's probably dangerous. And if you suffer any kind of injury in that situation, then I think you should talk to an attorney, because a lot of times there's personal injuries cases out there that people just don't know they have when they have legitimate claims.
Yeah, it's akin to a preventable accident. And if you're in a situation where you or a family member's been injured, and you were injured as a result of a hazard or a defect in property, or as a result of somebody running a red light, it's pretty clear that you'll have a claim against that particular party's insurance company to pay for your care.
Well, if you're the person Vic and Reed are talking about, or a family member or a friend, we certainly want to hear from you to try to help point you in the right direction. The number 803-442-4551. You're watching News 12 Law Call. Welcome back. We'll take Tony's call in a moment. First, though, if your lawsuit is headed to court, be prepared to wait a while for a verdict. Personal injury attorney Melissa Detchmendy explains why in tonight's legal brief.
Many people get frustrated after their personal injury lawsuit is filed because such a long time passes before any settlement or trial. Here's what's happening. In the discovery phase, you and your lawyer will need to gather up all of the medical records, your bills, and other proof of your injuries. Some of these must be obtained in a specific way to make them admissible at trial. This just takes time. The other party's lawyers may slow things down by scheduling what seems like an endless number of motions and hearings on motions. They're hoping you'll get tired of waiting and agree to settle for less. If your case doesn't settle, it will go to trial. But trials are on the court schedule, not the lawyer schedule. Having a case that's 2 to 3 years old before going to trial isn't unusual. But if you really have a valid claim, your patience can pay off. That's your legal brief for tonight. I'm personal injury attorney Melissa Detchmendy of the Vic Hawk Law Firm. Back to you.
Thank you, Melissa. Both of her colleagues, Vic and Reed, are here taking your calls all about injuries. And Tony from Georgia joins us on the phone. We understand, Tony, you were a gunshot victim. Is that correct?
Yes,
Where did this happen?
in Keysville, at a club.
Okay.
Was the person that shot you, were they criminally prosecuted?
Well, not yet.
Okay. And your question is, you're seeing if you can recover from that?
Yes, I was wondering, because I'm going to be out of work for a while. I was wondering if I could do any kind of lawsuit or anything.
Yeah, the answer is yes, Tony. There would be a claim against the owner of the club if the owner of the club was on notice that there were problems or potential dangers to the customers with individuals coming up there that were violent or had a violent nature. You see it more often arising in situations where people have come to a motel or hotel to stay, and there are potential dangers from third parties coming on the premises, injuring those particular clients. But in the situation with the club, you're really going to have to look at the police record for that address over time to determine if the club was on notice that they should provide extra safety and then failed to do so. And you make sure there's insurance available.
Yeah, and there you could bring a civil case against the person who actually shot you,
Yeah.
because that's an intentional tort. They intentionally harmed you, and that's past the negligent theory that they, like I said, they intended the harm. But as Vic just pointed out, the problem with that is even if you get a judgment against an individual, how are you going to get them to pay?
Yeah.
And that's why you got to have some kind of insurance
And
backing
he's
them.
probably going to be in prison too.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, our next caller, Sharon, on the line from Augusta, and we're going to talk a little bit about the statute of limitations, I suppose. Sharon, how long ago did your daughter get hurt when she was going to school?
It was in 2002.
10 years ago. How is she doing right now?
She hurts every day from the top of her head to the bottom of her feet.
And she
was diagnosed also with fibromyalgia.
And another student hurt her?
Kicked in the back.
Okay.
How old is she now?
She's 22.
Well,
take
it's
it, Reed?
kind of a similar situation that we just had. First of all, I think that the statute is probably run on something like this, and then the next issue is going to be trying to get, if it was at school, the school to be responsible, and that's surely going to. If you haven't filed anything against the school, that's going to the statute would already have run on that. But the same type of situation with the club, you would have to show that this person was known to injure people and to kick people, and the teachers or the principals didn't do anything about it. There would have to have been prior incidents to attach some kind of liability to them. And then you have the problem with the pre-existing injuries with your daughter. I think you said that she had some problems already that may not be able to be tied into that injury that was when she was kicked. So I think you have some pitfalls, but I think the number one pitfall is going to be trying to get over the statute limitations, and I think that's probably run on this case.
Yeah. As a general rule, Sharon, the minor's claim would be told until the minor reaches the age of 18, but you said she's 22 now, and she would have had 2 years after she reached the age of 18 to go ahead and file a claim arising from the incident.
We have another situation fairly similar at a school, and Fatina joins us from the CSRA on the Georgia side of the river. Fatina, this happened back in 2008?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what? Go right ahead.
I was in an ROTC program, and I was injured on a rope climb.
Mm-hmm.
And at school, they never really paid too much attention to the injuries. They took me to the hospital twice. But after that, I kind of came back home to Augusta, and that happened when I was 21 years old. Now I'm 25, and now I'm still having pains with my back.
You had 2 years in which to file a claim, and I think the time's already run.
Yeah, that's a statute issue, and there's really, unfortunately, no way to get around those type things.
Well, sorry about that, Fatina. We want to hear from other folks who are watching tonight. We give you the phone number once again, 803-442-4551. We're just going to pay the bills, and we'll be back with more of your questions all about injuries on tonight's News 12 Law Call.